Welcome back to the Electrify podcast, brought to you by the creators of Electrify Expo, North America's largest EV festival, coming to a major city near you. All right, let's have some fun here with the Rascal. Well, it's not Rascal, it's Matt Jaskol. I love that.
Perfect.
Like, Rascal, yeah, perfect, right? Well, Matt Jaskol joining us here. For those just listening, he has a Skydive Dubai shirt on. So
yeah,
that's first and foremost.
I didn't even know I was going to have this today. I'm at my girlfriend's apartment, was running errands, and grabbed it's one of my favorite shirts, and so it was totally by chance.
So I assume you didn't just get the shirt because you were there. You actually skydove.
I did over the Palms.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so sick. That's like classic. Yeah, so obviously you're an adrenaline junkie, but just give you a proper introduction here. Matt Jaskol, race car driver, NASCAR, everything. But he's on the conversation here because he's been ripping around the Mach-E at Ford demos, and the Mach-E 1400. Right? Have you driven that?
No, I have not. They haven't had it. So they had it last year. I just got on the program this year. I got to rip the rally around to do some testing in that thing, but I have not got to the honor of putting my hands on the 1400 yet.
Looking at your social, obviously you're piloting multiple different vehicles. You're having a lot of fun. So pull them up. It's so while anybody listening right now, obviously, hopefully you're not driving. But Matt Jaskol, M-A-T-T, traditional spelling, but Jaskol, Jaskol. You rip around a bunch of different cars. Traveling all over. Where are you from? What's your background? How did you start cutting your teeth in racing?
Oh man, we got 3 hours, right? You said for this podcast.
Oh jeez. No, I'm going golfing. So let's wrap it up.
We'll keep it tight. All right. Yeah, man, I've been in Vegas most of my life. I was born in California, Westlake Village, but been in Vegas since I was 5. Started motocross at only the age of like 5 or 6 years old. It was kind of just a gearhead family. My dad was a boat racer before I was born, so it wasn't like we were like a crazy, like racing family. And we didn't come from a lot of money, just like the typical '90s man. High class white trash. I always joke about, man. Like my dad was just a hardworking man on his hands and knees. Owned a hardwood flooring company, but in the '90s, man, things were good. Like money was good, things were cheap, and so we were racing dirt bikes. My brother and I racing motocross, and that's actually again crazy life story. But that's how I first met Travis Pastrana, like back in the early mid '90s or something like that, late '90s, and then. I got out of motocross. I realized that just wasn't the path I wanted to go on. It was, I wasn't as fast as like Bubba Stewart and these. I was racing against these guys in like the World Mini, which was the biggest motocross race in Vegas for amateurs, and I was holding my own. I was a top intermediate rider, but man, these guys were like doing triples. At like 10 years old, and I was like, bro, I'm not going to do. I watched my cousin like compound fracture his leg. Like in his teenage years. I was like, dude, this is not it. So I started racing go-karts because there was a kart track right across from the motocross track. It was at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I'm so old, unfortunately, it was before the Speedway was even built. So before the NASCAR track was built, I was racing go-karts there. And was winning races right away. Like took to it immediately, was kind of a natural at it, and the rest was history, man. Like the make a long story long. I did go karts, and then at only about 14, 15 years old, I got signed by Paul Tracy, who was one of the most famous IndyCar drivers at the time. I'm sure you know him, and so I was signed to his go kart team.
Everybody's most hated Canadian.
Everybody's most favorite now sometimes though, like, right? Everybody needs a villain. Yeah.
He's polarizing, but like, yes,
he's definitely got up and down, right, through his career.
You got to know my buddy. You got to know my buddy Randy Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Super random.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Randy's a great friend of mine. So yeah,
Dude, he was one of my mechanics growing up.
There you go. Well, there we go. There's a connector. Yep. Yeah. And Randy, I'm going to see him here in August because I announced Formula Drift. So I go visit him, and I met him through Bucky Lassick because Bucky was on a PTK.
Holy shit, dude. Wow. Small world, man. Dude, Randy was like one of my main mechanics when I was a teenager, dude. Like
beautiful.
Yeah. Cause I was at CRG before Randy was like a mentor, man. I was at CRG before I was at Paul Tracy. And then years later, he came over to PTK with us. But like, dude, and Randy just wrote me the other day to say happy birthday to my dad. We go way back. We go back to 1998. That's when I first met Randy.
And did you beat Scott Speed? But better yet, did you beat Scott Speed's brother?
So Scott was a little older than I, but I have a badass podium shot It was Scott won the Supernats. I finished second. AJ Almendinger, my teammate, was third. So we were 1, 2, 3 on the podium. But Scott was about 3 years older than me. So I only raced against Scott for like 2 years, and he usually was winning. It was us on the podium together. I would get him every now and then at like one of the races, but at the big Supernats races, he was usually dominating. And then Alex and I competed against each other, and we would go back and forth. So Alex and I, we would compete back and forth. So then after my Paul Tracy years, I got chosen by Skip Barber for the scholarship. Was kind of doing both. Won the Skip Barber Racing School scholarship. Then I got picked by Red Bull and was part of the F1 development program. I was 1 year after Scott, but I was teammates with. So Scott got taken the first year, and then he continued on. I got picked the second year. Had my time there, and but that's a wild story as well, the whole Red Bull thing. And then and then my racing career kind of went up and down like many others. I raced Indy Lights, and then economic collapse in 2008. I stopped racing altogether, but was always working in motorsports. And kind of a crazy journey, man, like 10 years of not really racing professionally, just, coaching, doing a little bit here and there, trying to stay relevant, racing karts every year at the Supernats. And then it wasn't until after the pandemic that I got a NASCAR ride. A friend that I met through go-kart racing here in Vegas 20 years ago started an auto parts company and kind of made it. He's still struggling to survive. He's publicly traded. He's fighting the good fight, but he paid for me to race NASCAR for 2 years, and so I did about 14 races part-time in both NASCAR truck and Xfinity. And then there's a lot of wild shit in between. Becoming a skydiver 10 years ago, I went on a TV show in 2017 and starved in a jungle for 42 days without food or shelter, a show called Castaways on ABC, which was a pretty wild experience. And it was after that journey in the jungle that kind of got me back into motorsports in 2018, doing some sports car stuff. So it's been a wild journey to now, man. And now I'm ripping EVs in parking lots and, just having a good time.
Yeah. And I guess, what's really interesting, I just kind of unearthed, kind of peeling back the onion here. And at the core of it, you're an adrenaline junkie. And that's what's really cool is like,
a dopamine junkie. I get scared.
Dopamine.
I think adrenaline junkies, like they stand on the edge of that cliff or in that airplane, and no matter what the conditions, they send it. All they care about is just getting that adrenaline. Where I'm actually not. It's always been the misconception of my life. I definitely like to consider myself more of a calculated athlete, weigh out all the balance and all the risk. And I get scared, man. People think, oh man, you're so wild, you're so brave, you're an adrenaline junkie. I'm like, fuck, I get scared all the time, man. Even skydiving, I get scared. I do tandems. I'm a tandem instructor. I get scared. I don't tell my passengers all the time, but I get scared every day, man. It's like,
sorry to cut you off, but that's Pastrana's if you're not scared, you're doing it wrong. You have to check your gut. I mean, look at Travis jumped out of Travis is a great friend of mine as well. And, him jumping out of a plane without a parachute. I think
he's more of an adrenaline junkie.
No, it's a calculated risk. And now that he's a father and a husband,
he has slowed down.
Yeah. He has. And again, even Evel Knievel, you're a salesman. Pastrana, Evel Knievel, like his hero, he's a salesman. He's selling. That's what I always say. Like I'm a salesman.
The other side of the coin is I'm in complete denial, and I'm an absolute dopamine junkie. I just don't want to admit it, but it's usually if people know what dopamine is, that's usually what you're chasing. That you're scared in the moment, and you're not sure about things, but you've been over that, you've been past that fear, and how cool it is and the amazing things. For me, honestly, like skydiving is a little bit more of a spiritual side of things, and I was searching for something. I wasn't racing, and it wasn't just like, oh man, I gotta get that adrenaline fix. I was looking for something more, and I found it. I found it in skydiving. It was pretty cool.
That's crazy. So talk, and I love this, just unearthing your DNA, right? Your story, your journey. Here you are, Vegas, and again, it sounds like you're 702. I'm just going to go into the EV stuff because it's always interesting because we're at this cusp, we're at this interesting, we're going from tape to CD to digital, right? Like that's what I always say, and I think that going to digital where we don't, I'm still buying records. I literally bought a record this morning, a Grateful Dead record. By the way, went to the Sphere. Have you been to the Sphere yet?
I haven't, man. Honestly, just got too cheap.
Dude, you live down the road.
Bro, I know. I look at the price. I will. I just been waiting for hoping for a deal or a hookup, but I'm excited to go. I want to check it out. But
they have a Thursday go to like a Thursday show, like August. It'll be hot. You live there. Biblical, absolutely amazing. Talk about technology. Talk about the experience.
That's what everybody said. Immersive, yeah. Just
holy cow, yeah. Saw Jaskol. Oh, dude, insane. Yeah. So all that being said, is now here we are going to digital. Cool. What is your take? I mean, driving that Mach E rally, seeing it. Hot take. Go.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, yeah. they write you checks.
Yep. So like, listen, I'll be completely transparent, right? Like, I like to be honest and transparent and like explain how things
lie to
work.
Me. Like, yeah, I love when people say, let me be honest.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Well,
no,
lie to me.
I just like to get deeper into it than what it just is. So like, so I don't work for Ford directly as much as people think that, because it just looks like that. I work for an independent contractor that, that gets hired by Ford. It's like,
who hires you? Imagination?
What's that? It's
Imagination
I'm for Jackson
Ralph?
Dawson.
Okay.
Jackson Dawson. Yeah. Which Imagination, I've worked with them and stuff. So I've worked with all of them. Right. But so Jackson Dawson, they're the pro drive company. Right. So they they get called by Ford and they staff a pro driver. So yeah, I'm still putting on a Ford shirt, working with Ford for them, but yeah. I'm really not just it's not like Ford came to me. I wish they did and said, hey, we want you to drive these vehicles. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes smaller divisions, like, I work for McLaren directly, which is cool. I work for Bentley directly, but which is funny, right? Some of the technically smaller manufacturers, but for Ford, it's usually pretty big. It's fragmented. But I will say this about just talking about the Mach E, I am desperately trying to hustle a way to get one because I do like it that much. I love the Mach E. Like I drive here in Vegas every day. I go, I go skydiving 40, it's my side job. It's my side hustle. It's 45-minute drive each way. And I'm like, man, this thing would be phenomenal. The drive is amazing. So, and I'm a hardcore race car driver, NASCAR, baby, like V8s, a lot of fuel, a lot of power, a lot of noise. That's still always, I love that. But we got to be realistic about where we're headed. And so all political BS aside, as just from a pure driving standpoint, it's freaking incredible. I love the thing. Yeah. The thing is so fun, so badass, easy to charge, low cost. I mean, like, I love it. As far as
this
the political
message
side
brought
of
to you by Ford, like, what a testimonial right there. Like, I mean, that is absolutely quintessential shifting, like that call. And what's crazy is, like you said, you're loud and all these things, but you just dove into, like, you being side hustle, skydiving, all that kind of stuff. What's interesting about driving an EV is it's ironically more sensory overload because you're minimizing all the influences, right? So that's what's really crazy about it when you drive, especially like on a long drive, like you said, 45 minutes, I'm going skydiving. Like, that is an experience in itself.
Yeah. And actually, it's funny that I want one so bad because after you just skydived like 10 jumps in a morning, like we'll skydive 10 times from 6 a.m. and we're done at 11 a.m. And I just jumped out of an airplane 10 times with another human or filmed outside video. And I actually need that, like, calm, that cruise, where it's quiet, and I love driving. Obviously, it's one of my main passions in life. It's what makes it is part of my DNA is driving, and driving the Mach E, at least, or a lot of EVs I've driven. It's just, it has something unique about it where it's that perfect, like, contrast of just jumping out of a plane, the noise, the craziness, and now you're just cruising down the road on your drive home, AC music, whatever. And it is a totally different drive experience that I encourage people to experience. Right. And I genuinely love it. Now, I don't love what's going to possibly happen to motorsports here in the future, but I do see, like, the hybrid thing is I love hybrids. I just rented a Jeep, the 4xe, and that thing, I love it. Actually, I freaking thing was so cool. I took it up to some property I have in Arizona, and I was like looking at the phone. All right, how much can I buy one of these things for? What can I get a used one? So again, from the driving experience aspect, I absolutely love it. And so, like, I met this executive when I was at Long Beach. So for the Electrified Expo, and I met one guy at the Long Beach Formula Drift, and then Long Beach Electrified Expo. So I met a couple of really high up executives, and I'm pushing, like, any angle. I'm like, listen, I know I'm not some really hot chick. I know I don't have a million followers, but I do have stuff to offer. Like I'm just trying to get like one for a year lease or something, go do some content, but I love driving the thing. Absolutely love driving.
All right, I'm going to stop. You said I'm worried about motorsports. Come on, man. I mean, look at Nitrocross. It's all electric, and you want to. You would love a seat in an FC1X. Like I announced that series, and I mean, come on, man.
No, so like, I shouldn't say word wrong. Again, more context.
No, I know. I'm using your words against you, but
push on me. So I was at Nitrocross here in Vegas. I was hanging out. A good buddy of mine, which is rad, Brandon Ward. His father is Jeff Ward, the Supercross star. Yeah, so it's cool.
Never heard of him.
Good.
Never heard of him.
Right.
Joking.
I was watching him when I was just a kid, and then when he went into IndyCar. So it's cool to be friends with Brandon. He's trying to do some stuff in motorsports, and then I got to meet his dad, which was pretty rad. So I was at Nitrocross here. I'm actually looking out the window where it was, and of course. As I saw those things go by, I was like, shit, I want to drive one of those things so bad. So no matter what it is in motorsports, I want to do it. I'm worried about when I say motorsports as a whole, the fan base, the people, the transition happening. Like, I just don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of wild things happening. We have to accept that, EV or hybrid is going to be a part of the future, and it's going to have to bleed over into motorsports. It already is. It's happening. And, I guess, things are changing. We're just living through a crazy time to be alive, right? So I think even NASCAR in the next 10 years isn't going to be what everybody thinks of when they think of NASCAR. And when I say worried, I just don't know. I just don't want to see it, fall apart. Or when I say fall apart, see the fan base leave and see this, the mecca that is motorsports in America. I think it's just going to shift. That's all. Again, things are just going to change, and it's going to be a different way of doing things. I think hybrid for motorsports is going to be the future for now. Like, it's not going to be all electric right away. And I like hybrids. If you look at the IMSA stuff, right? You see like the Cadillac and when they're leaving it electric, and then boom, and then the high power hybrid motor kicks in. That's badass shit right there. So
what's the Ford GT? That evolution of that, and people are like, oh, I don't know. You're like, have you driven one? Well, they're $1 million to, and like experience that car and like what the GTD is. And that's what I love, here again, you are hired gun through an agency. You talk about Ford, you talk about Rolls-Royce, you talk about Bentley. Ford, right? Like oldest car manufacturer. And Jim Farley has taken a great stance on, all right, we're not going full electric, like Dodge was like, we're going all in. You're like, ooh, Toyota's like, we invented the hybrid, right? Ford as a manufacturer it's a compliment. That's what's cool about it. And to your point, and to the protection of motorsports, I agree. I think it's like, you can't go all in. Like, again, Formula E got wildly chastised because here you are electric, but you're running these generators that are off of fossil fuels that are charging the batteries. So it's kind of reverse, but at the end of the day, it's scary to buy the iPhone. I remember I bought an iPhone, and I was a BlackBerry guy. I was a QWERTY keyboard. I loved it. I was just BlackBerry till I die. I bought an iPhone, tried to transfer everything. It was just wildly different, and I returned the iPhone. Now I'm like, dude, I don't know how you don't do that. It's just so easy. Here we are putting a fingerprint on our computer. We're doing like face scan, even with glass. It's scary. It's sorry, I might be dating myself here. It's Cro-Magnon lawyer, Cro-Magnon caveman lawyer, where he's like, it's frightening and bewildering. I don't know. It's just this new, it's scary. It's scary, and it's okay.
It's funny to hear you say that, man. I remember I was a Nokia guy, hardcore Nokia guy. And when the iPhone,
you had the Matrix phone, big Matrix phone guy.
Hell yeah, I did. I still have it, bro. It's funny. I have it in my closet. The one that popped open in the Matrix. I have that phone.
What's your high score on Snake? Right? What's your high score on Snake?
Yeah, I can't remember, man. I want to turn one on just to use that, see what it's about. But I went to AT&T. I remember it was right when it came out. So what was it, like 06, like middle of 06, 07. I grabbed the iPhone because I was traveling the country, doing a lot of stuff. And I was like, man, this is cool. I can do GPS, but I didn't want to go all in. So for years, dude, I'm talking until like 2008, I had a Nokia and my iPhone. And I was like, oh yeah, I only use my iPhone for like email and like navigation and stuff. So it's in my hand, but I got to text and talk on my Nokia because I wasn't willing to go all the way in, man.
There it is. That's the analogy. People, you can, and that's where, Vaughn Gittin Jr. talks about. He's like, it's a great compliment, because people talk about range, right? And everybody's like, oh, well, on average, people drive. I saw a thing the other day. People on average drive 12 miles a day.
Right.
You know, like that's it. So,
Right.
you know, here you are driving, 45 minutes. It's good. But that sanctuary is such a cool experience. And again, here you are, a dopamine junkie, as you describe yourself. And sometimes you need that sanctuary. Sometimes you need to burn a little Nag Champa and get a little hippy dippy. And that's what's ironic is like the EV might be perceived as a hippy dippy thing, but some people are getting EVs because it complements their life. You know, and I know some people don't love it, but I love what Farah says about it. It's a thing. It's a widget, you know, and it is at times it could be perceived as an iPhone, but it's a solution solver. That's what I look at it as.
And I'm OCD, OCD and balance and everything. So what I love about it is what you just said. Hippy dippy is cool. Like you're cruising, but you just hit unbridled and now you have all the dopamine you need. now you're going 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds or something. So I mean, the thing is actually gnarly to drive. My girlfriend's hooked on it. Like she got to come to Electrify Expo and I gave her some rides, and she's got a Bronco that she loves. And, you know, she's not like into EVs at all, but now she's like, yeah, I want one of these. And genuinely and that's what, you know what, it's cool. And that's what I'm trying to talk to Ford about. That's what we do. I am the final point. I do 500 rides a day. I give over 1,000. My mind, I'm smiling the whole time, which is awesome. Yeah. But you're burnt out, bro. You are just bent at the mind-bending amount of times. We're doing a 25-second lap, 500, and I don't stop. I take like a little snack bar. We don't really get lunch. It's just me and one other driver. We don't really have a relief driver. So you're just ripping laps all day, and you're getting it's just the same routine, and you're just getting burnt out. But there is dozens of people, dozens and dozens that get in and they look at me and they go, all right, make me regret my Tesla purchase. Make me regret this, or sell it to me. And I'm like, all right, sit back. Okay, give me a countdown. And they go 3, boom, I hit the gas. You know, and every grown ass man screams like a girl, man. And they're just like, holy shit, you know, like it blows people. And then they go, okay, I didn't realize, you know, it's like, yeah, man, this thing's no joke. And then built on a proper Ford, you know, the handling is genuinely incredible. So the thing blows my mind. It really is impressive. And to touch back to what you just said, like, I like what you said about, you know, it's a compliment. That is kind of if I get into the political side of things, that what I don't like about some of the car manufacturers or the people in the EV world is that they push it down your throat. Of course, everybody says the same thing, especially like, you know, hardcore racing guys like myself. It doesn't have to be all EV. It is not meant to be that. It's to complement the driving experience. Let the world develop. Let hybrids come in. Let things change. But it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to change your whole life and only be an EV. It's just to like you said, it's to, if you have the means to do it. I don't even have the means right now to buy an extra one. It's like, but I'm working towards that. Or in the grand scheme of everybody in the world, whether it's corporations or, you know, adding it to fleets, it doesn't have to be all EV. It's just it's a supplement to what's already happening in the driving world. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. And you're seeing it already happen. I mean, just the early adopters, the Teslas, obviously the Cybertruck disrupts people, right? But, you know, and that's what it's kind of fun. I mean, the car farts. Like, let's just call it what it is. You know, like the car farts. It dances. It has light thing. Like just Tesla. I'm just talking about.
Dude, I love
what
it. Yeah.
Elon's doing.
I did it with the lock button. Love it.
Right. You know, and here's the Mach E Rally, which I think is just a really great compliment to the EV world and knowing the designers there and what they were doing, and, you know, it going on the Rebel Rally, they had some struggles. It's transparent. And another thing I always bring up is I have a buddy, he goes by Kirpius on social media, and hardcore looking dude. He was in like a Lana Del Rey music video, big beard, works at Harley. He's like Harley's #1 photographer. He looks gnarly, but he's not. Sweetheart of a dude. Well, I did a lot of stuff with Harley. And when the Livewire was initially launched, it was the Harley Davidson Livewire. They repositioned the brand. It's just called Livewire now. And he took the photos of the bike in, I think it was in Spain or Ireland or somewhere, not in the States. And I said, dude, what do you think of it? He's like, dude, it is the most fun motorcycle I've ever ridden, you know? And that goes back to kind of what you're saying. Yeah. And it's cool. And it's like, don't knock it till you've tried it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, again, I'm not a skydiver. I'm not a dopamine. That's why I announce car races. I'm a big dude. I'm surrounded by so much talent. I'll let everybody else break themselves off. You know, again, Bucky Lasek, pro skateboarder, and I, know Hawk and know a bunch of people, not name dropping for the sake of that, but, and all these talented car racers. I just talk about it. I don't be about it, but I have bungee jump. So I will give myself that. But
and that's scary. I've never done that. I won't do that. You're nuts.
In New Zealand on the bridge was awesome. But I'll let all these other guys. But what I like about it is all this equity that you have, right? And my buddy Kirpius, and here's Matt, has this. You have all this equity, all these experiences, and you're like, it's fun. I want one. I like it. It makes sense, and that's I'll be quite honest. I'm tired of like defending EV. Like, I don't drive an EV. I don't have one. I love hosting this podcast because I come in with an inquisitive mind of like, hey, Matt, we've never met. I don't know who you are. Tell the people who you are and what your stance is, because people aspire to do what you do. And then your angle on it, driving a Mach E and driving Ford Mustangs, driving Bentley, driving, different manufacturers. So your equity gives a good justification of, again, hate defending EV because I think it's great.
Right.
It just doesn't, if it doesn't fit in your world, it doesn't fit in your world. And that's fine. Just don't hate, congratulate, just be like, hey, I want to try that,
Agreed. And it's tough, right? Imagine the people that I know in the automotive industry, just like you, that do bash on it and stuff like that. And I'm like, you're missing the point. And I'm like, cause again, OCD, balance. I'm always looking for balance. I don't like the far here. Oh man, EV's garbage, or the far like it's gotta only be EV. I'm like, why can't we just drive right down the middle of the road somewhere and say that they're just fun to drive? It's a good option. It might complement where like I consult for people all the time. I used to teach the Bridgestone Teens Drive Smart program. I was the lead instructor for many years, from like 2011 to 2016, and that was before EVs. But now I still do some teen Drive Smart programs with Driver's Edge, which is a pretty cool program here in Vegas, and travels a little bit. And depending on regions, is one of the number one cars that I recommend to parents having their kids go to college. I'm like, get them an EV, get them one of the Volvo EVs or whatever. It's safer. You keep them out of gas stations late at night, depending on where they're living. It's like they're charging at their.
That's a wild fact, right? That's interesting. That's something I've never heard in my year of this podcast.
Little things I think about, the little things I teach and tell and talk about. I'm like, it's like one little safety net for your kid. One little thing they have to, they're not taking it into a Jiffy Lube. They're not getting oil changes. You don't have to worry about the brakes because you're not going to check those for probably 40,000 miles. It's like they're not going to gas stations. They're going to their like EV charging, which I say it's an option if they have the infrastructure for that at their college or something like that. And parents love it. It's like, I'm like, yeah, that's your jam right there. And not to mention they're super fun.
It's such a different experience. And like, you talk about moto and stuff, but Cole Seeley, I've had him on the podcast, and he had the BMW E, like that, what is it? The i8, I think it is.
The iX or i8's the little
i8
sports car one.
Yeah. He had that. He didn't like it. He's like, it has a speaker, doesn't it? And that's what everybody defaults to, right? But it's always about that experience and that tactile, like, oh, I got to hear. It's always the exhaust. I got to hear an exhaust but I love the idea of having that sanctuary for a little bit. And how about that new Hyundai Ioniq N that our boy? I just thought about it. I got to get my boy Ron Zaris. He just won the production class electric at Pikes Peak.
Pikes Peak, dude, I saw it because I raced a Hyundai Elantra race car a year ago at Daytona, so I'm a Hyundai fan. I work for Hyundai sometimes, yeah.
Rad. The Ioniq, like, and like my buddy's like, I really like those things, and it's really disruptive, like the body lines of it, the weird grill, because you can do different things with the design, right? And then that hatchback rips. Yeah, I mean, the Ioniq N is an absolute hot rod. It has like so much power, all-wheel drive, like 0 to 60 and blah, blah, like, just shut up. It's just don't think it's electric. Just plug in your phone.
We're here. Let's give a big, not sound funny, like give a big shout out to Hyundai, man. Like 20 years ago, Hyundai was like a gremlin. You were like, Hyundai, what a piece of shit. Oh, you know, it's
Yeah.
like it was a garbage vehicle. Now they're winning motorsports championships in gas, winning Pikes Peak in electric. The cars look good. They're priced well. I mean, it's like, shit, dude, Hyundai is one of the top now, man. It's in the top 5. You know,
Yep.
It's like one of the better manufacturers out there, both road and in motorsports, which is crazy, right? Who would have ever guessed, right?
No.
And just a funny little story to share. So I did right here in Las Vegas. It's cool, man. I'm in a cool spot. I'm in an apartment here overlooking the Strip, and so pretty rad stuff. So I did a commercial for Hyundai, and it was for the Robo Taxi. It was for an electric driverless. It's called the Robo Taxi.
Okay.
And so they're around. You see them rarely, but like there's somebody sitting up front still just to like monitor things and push some buttons. But it is, driverless taxi. So I did the commercial for it here, and I kept saying Hyundai or Hyundai, and so the Korean, people forget it's Korean manufacturer. So we had the Koreans, and it was the chief marketing officer from Korea for this commercial, because it was like the whole robotaxi is a big deal of theirs. They're starting to roll out more and more around the world. And he looked at me, and I'm just sharing the story for anybody who doesn't know how to say it. He looked at me and he was like, "It's Hyundai like Sunday." And I was like, "Yes, sir. Copy that." And so I'll never forget it. And so whenever I hear somebody mispronounce it, I'm always like, no. Hyundai like Sunday. And somebody will argue with me. And I'm like, "Listen, man, I was with the CMO of Hyundai from Korea." And he was so polite because he heard me doing it. And we were doing little Matchbox cars talking about the movements. And he came over to me privately to just say, "It's Hyundai like Sunday." And I was like, "Yes, sir. Thank you."
Yep. Had the same conversation because, again, I'm announcing Formula Drift for 20 plus years. Reese Mad Skills Millen used to race a Hyundai, and he was in a Genesis Coupe. And I had the same conversation from Hyundai PR that said Hyundai like Sunday, like almost identical. And
that's awesome.
We do the math 10 plus years ago when Reese was competing. He's now since retired and he's old, but I'm joking. I love Reese. Had that. I love
legend.
That.
I know who he. I don't even know him personally. I just know who he is, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
But shook his hand a few times throughout the years. Yeah.
And his dad's absolutely legend, right? Pikes Peak and all that. But yeah, Rod. Shout out to Rod Millen. Shout out to New Zealand, by the way. Have you been to New Zealand?
I haven't, dude. One of my best friends, skydiver. He's a New Zealander, but like I know it's funny. It's where everybody goes to bungee jump. They're famous for their bungee jumping, some skydiving. And some of my best friends, racing friends, some of the fastest drivers on the planet come out of freaking New Zealand. So
right. I mean, it's just I love it. I was just messaging. I was up late having some bourbon last night, and I get a text from Mad Mike Wadette. Did you see his McLaren, the rotary McLaren?
I didn't know. What?
Oh, go. Okay. Anyway, listening, we're on a tangent. Matt, you're absolutely matching my energy, which I absolutely appreciate. So,
thanks, man.
But because I love different brands of people all over the globe, but and just again, just all that OCD and all that stuff. But go ahead, anybody listening, go ahead and look up Mad Mike Wadette, Mad Mike on Instagram. A rotary McLaren.
What?
It's insane. And it was in conjunction with Giara, and it's going to be at Goodwood Festival Speed. It's bonkers. And Mad Mike, he built a 6-rotor 787B last year, full aluminum aluminum cage. It's insane, tube chassis. Yeah, nice. Go and look at Mad Mike. Sorry, motorsport stuff.
I got a question for you. So you work in the rallycross. Do you know Chip Pankow?
Do I know Chip Pankow?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, check this out, dude. So Chip, in 2004, 20 freaking years ago, which I hate it because I've been posting like a memory lane of me racing for Red Bull because I got to do some of the most incredible. I won at Indy during Formula One. I won at Montreal during Formula One, and I was racing against James Hinchcliffe and Graham Rahal. It was a big year, and Joey Hand and like some.
Oh, I love Joey.
And was winning. It was up front. So Chip Pankow was the series director for Formula BMW. So that we go way back 20 years, man. And now he's freaking the man. So I keep in touch with him on LinkedIn and stuff, which is super cool. And so I forgot. I was like, shit, Chip, man.
Yep.
It's like, He was like the what's the word, man? He was like the Bernie Ecclestone for us. He was
I don't know if he'd love that analogy of being Bernie, but.
But he was cool. He was a cool cat, but he ran the series. It was this big new like Formula One development series in America, and you're working with him, which is rad.
Yeah, no, Chip. Right? Yeah, Chip's a great friend. He's been in my house, and I've partied with him all across the world. And
that's so cool.
Yeah, so he's the rallycross kind of dude. Like he's really trying to push rallycross and that effort. And Great
He's the
segue.
GM, right? General. What do you call? What's
Yes.
his GM?
Yeah, I don't know his actual title, but he's high up, and
general manager of
Nitro Cross is part of the Fiume family, which is Nitro Cross is part of Nitro Circus, which is also part of Street League Skateboarding, which is also part of UFC, which is also part of Power Slap, which is hysterical. So, but all of those things cross pollinating. You have similar demographics, right? So again, look at the evolution of motorsports. Why is F1 big? Why is F1 big right now, Matt?
Drive to Survive blew it up for sure.
That's I think. I mean, everybody, you're delusional if you don't think a TV show absolutely blew up F1.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it was obviously a huge sport, but I tell people this all the time. I'm like, what escalated it to that other level to where friends of mine who had they didn't care about Formula One at all. Now they're hardcore fans. There's freaking F1 fantasy leagues. I'm like, it was Drive to Survive. It was all that. And unfortunately for Formula One, you might see it, slowly taper off, and the hype will slowly come down after a while. But that's what elevated them to the powerhouse to being like next to soccer on their on TV, worldwide TV ratings.
Well, being a household name, right? You're like, oh, I love Daniel Ricciardo, but he doesn't win, but I love him, right? And like, dude, who was the other day? Somebody was talking smack. It was a former F1 driver.
Oh, dude, it was Jacques Villeneuve, who was
I was like, dude,
hammering on Danny Rick.
Let the man live.
Back, luckily, which was
he did. Man. I didn't see his response. Yeah. What did he say?
Danny said he said he was like, I think he's hit his head too many times. I don't know what he's going on about. I think he might even jabbed at his bald head or something. It was pretty good.
And Danny's such a sweetheart. He's such a good dude.
I hate that extreme stuff too, man. Like, obviously, okay, Jacques a Formula One world champion. He won the Indy 500. For those that don't know, but he's been out of the game since the late '90s, early 2000s, and I think I don't think Danny Rick is like washed up. I just think it's just environments. I'm a huge Danny Rick fan. I think he's a badass driver, and the guy has won what is it, like a dozen Formula One races, and he's just not in the he made some bad decisions as far as teams, but I hate when people just start just like, oh man, he's a terrible driver. It's like, he didn't fucking forget how to drive. He didn't just forget how to drive. He's still a badass driver. He's just in the wrong element or wrong environment. And the guy took equipment that was subpar and put it on podiums many times. Yeah. So I stand with Danny, not with Villeneuve for sure. Like,
this is like, so yeah, that's some weird, competition there. And it's cool. So segue, sorry, this is an Electrify podcast. Thank you for joining us. It's all good. But I think that is interesting because Formula E, what's your take on like Formula E and evolution and like electric stuff? Like you said, you're, and again, not calling you out, but I'm calling you out. You're like, I'm scared of motorsports, electrification in that space. Yeah. But, and again, people are voyeur listening to us. They're like, who the hell is Jarod Dienda? Who's Matt Jaskol? Yeah. Like whatever. Like, but I think people are like, never thought of that way. If I could change one kid's life, I've done my job. I'm joking. But yeah, go ahead.
That was a good voice too. So, okay, I'll give you my dark kind of like a conspiracy theory on Formula E. So, okay, Formula E came out and it was actually kind of big because of, they did some cool, unique stuff. They were going to these like weird, obscure locations everything's a street race, bring the show to the people, no different than what F1 does. And Formula E, although maybe the product wasn't great, like the vehicles themselves, and they were still figuring out the charging, and there was a lot of a lot of bad hype, so to speak, with the diesel generators going to charge and so once they've kind of settled in and explained more of what. It's a show. It's not to say, EV. It's not to, they weren't trying to hide the fact that there was diesel generators going. It was just the fact of a new form of racing that could come in the future. And so here's my theory. Like, they actually started doing a pretty good job. And guess who doesn't like that? Formula One. Formula One can't be outdone by another formula type, and guess what? Formula One very likely in the future is going to have to be full, if not full electric, even more hybrid than they are right now, and they are very hybrid, right?
Yeah.
So they're full hybrid. So here's what has happened behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know about, and like hopefully I don't get put to sleep for this and get tracked down later jokingly. So like
turn around, Matt. There's somebody behind you.
So Formula One has purposely been suppressing. There's some really dark political stuff going on that I've dug into. Formula One has been suppressing Formula E with some of their TV stuff, controlling some things to not let Formula E get too big, because guess what will probably happen? And I'm calling it now. And we can come back to this podcast in less than 10 years. Formula One will
sorry, real quick. Enter X-Files music.
Dude, thank you. If you could edit that, that'd be great. That'd be amazing. So Formula One will absorb or take over Formula E. That's my theory. My dark theory is in the corporate, corrupt corporate world, is that Formula One is devaluing Formula E whatever way they can by controlling whether it's television rights, location rights, things like that. And then when the value gets low enough, Formula One will own it, and you won't have two entities, which probably is smart on the point of Formula One is Formula E will disappear, in my opinion, pretty soon in the next, I'd say inside the decade or so, and Formula One will own it. That's just my wild theory. That's my wild theory.
And that's why we're here. We're purely having conversations, and again, speculation. You can only tell the future by looking at the past. Yeah. And here's Champ Car, IndyCar, which that was a wild separation there for a bit. But I mean,
it has to become one at some point.
Yeah, and that was a manufacturer's race or manufacturer battle, and you're two. That was apples and apples. It wasn't, Formula E and Formula One are two very different things. But to our point about the complement and the technology and the progression, I mean, a podcast previously with Dakota, who's a 4-time scooter electric champion, similar to yourself, just a Renaissance man, does many different things.
Oh, probably saw them at Hyperfest. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, cool.
No,
they were racing. I just know they were demoing it. I don't know if he was.
Yeah. There. No, I don't think he was there. But I had a podcast with him, and it's interesting to see how scooters can change the perspective of electrification, because the scooter race in Dubai and, the UAE and all that, you can put that in different markets and places that you can't put other combustion engines, size of vehicles, motorcycle. So here is these scooters that are getting wildly developed, wind tunnel tested, but battery technology, sustainability, power, like range, all those things that complements into actual like consumer vehicles. Yeah. So that's where it there's more technology in F1 than there is freaking space programs. Like, let's just call it what it is, right? Yeah. So, and that's the unit of measure. And here's a TV show that helped build it up, because you want to, my wife is very intelligent. She went to college. She has 2 degrees, and she works in the automotive industry as well. But her favorite show is Below Deck, and just like sometimes you just want to dumb it down a little bit, but anyways, I say that because, people are like, oh, he's cute, I like him, and that's cool. Or like, I like that dude, that particular driver is my brand. And I like
Danny Rick.
I like Danny Rick. And here's Lewis just shaking things up, going to Ferrari, all that. Like, right. And people,
which even blew my mind. I consider myself an expert in the sport, in all motorsports, and I didn't see that coming. I was like,
not at all. And like, and people hate Max Verstappen because he's like the Tom Brady. Like, you hate him because you ain't him. Like, the dude's 40 something years old, looks like he's 25. He's a vampire. Successful. He can take a hit. Don't talk about Robert Kraft, but all that being said, but it's just one of those things. So EV is such, and I really appreciate this conversation, because like I said, tangents, and like I said, you match my energy. But just this, we're intended to talk about EV, but I think all of us collectively,
it's all connected though. It's all, everything we're talking about. It really is. We're still talking about where it's going to head, how it's developed, and we're talking about the history of vehicles and motorsports. Because like you just said, we can't know where we're going unless we look back at the past. And I was going to add to that, like, where do I think EV is going to go? Is I think we're going to land somewhere in the middle, like hopefully most things do in history of the world of life. It's like it was a far push. I think some of the car manufacturers like Dodge that have said, oh, we're all EV, I think they might even rescind some of that and be like, oh, okay, let's pull back on that a little bit. And I think somewhere is going to be in the middle of definitely very hybrid forward. Especially Toyota just called that out and said, we're going to kill all you guys going all EV because we developed hydrogen technology. So I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle where you have the option. And we're gonna get more sustainability. We're gonna get crazy more. The range already is kind of mind blowing. I worked with the new IQ Escalade just a week ago. I was doing it's not even available yet, but I was giving test rides with some GM people here at the Speedway in Vegas. And that thing, 500-mile range, man. I mean, you can pretty much drive cross country on 5 charges. You know, it's like that. That's insane. It's a big vehicle, though. It's like 10,000 pounds, but that's, the technology is going to keep catching up. And I think we'll land somewhere in the middle, where it'll be more affordable, of course. You'll have more options. And then a very hybrid forward thing is for sure what I think is going to happen.
It's really cool. And again, I think you just have so much equity. And we started out just on your journey talking about you karting or going 2 wheels to 4 wheels. It's kind of a natural transition at a young age. And now here you are. How old are you?
I'm 39, 40 this year.
Cool. Yeah. Congratulations, dude. I mean,
thanks.
Can't
believe I made it this far, right? Holy shit.
You're telling me I'm 45, brother. So but I just talk about it. These are very soft hands. I don't work on anything.
Same.
Funny story. I'm gonna put this out in the atmosphere. I thought my window was broken the other day. I come home. I'm driving home from the airport. I'm driving home. My window wasn't coming up. My passenger driver's side working. Call my buddy at Toyota dealership. I have a Tundra. I'm like, dude, the window's broken. He's, I'll bring it by. I exit, go over there, about to drop it off. 2 minutes away. I had the damn window lock on. Sorry, just a funny story.
Dude, getting out of our
head. Yeah, sorry. Just side note. And again, not the sharpest tool in the shed. But all that being said is I like what you have to say about many different facets of how your world, how you're progressive. It sounds like you are willing to be challenged. One, you're challenging yourself. You're challenging people that are around you. Now here you are, either in a. I mean, shoot, people are offended by EcoBoost Mustang, and now they're like, dude, those things rip.
And they freaking they're rip. I tell people all the time, like, they're badass, dude. They're fine. It's like, it's okay to like the original. My all-time dream car that I will have one day, I just want a replica, is an Eleanor, dude. A 1967 GT500 Eleanor. It way before Gone in 60 Seconds, bro.
Right.
I way before that. 10 years old. I was at a go-kart track. One was on a trailer. It was probably an original because it was like 1995. So back then it was like more realistic to have one. And it showed up on the back of a trailer, and some guy was just pulling up to the go-kart track to check things out. And I looked at my dad. I was 10. I was 10 years old. I knew it was a Mustang, but I like pulled on my dad's shirt and I was like, what is that? I mean, I was like in love. I didn't know that you could fall in love with a vehicle until that moment, right? That's when it first hit me, 10 years old. And ever since that day, 30 years ago, all I think about all the time is one of those vehicles. And it's still one of the sexiest. And then Gone in 60 Seconds came out, made it even cooler. It's like, and so, or when I say came out, the newer one with Nicolas Cage, everybody knows that, of course.
Yeah.
And so, I still want one of those to this day, but I still love an EcoBoost. I still want a Mach-E. It's like it. And so those the hardcore purists that I don't even get on with sometimes. When they're like, oh, EcoBoost Mustang. I'm like, it's okay. It's gonna be all right. Like, but I'm the same. I want that balance. I want my options. I want to still be able to go do it if I want. But the technology and the things that we have at our fingertips, it's okay to accept that as well. But again, I go somewhere right down the middle with all my car vehicle stuff. So,
and that's you in a nutshell, man. And again, just having not met you in person, but we got to get up. I'm not going skydiving with you, but I'll see you in Vegas. We'll go to the Sphere.
I'm taking my dude. Come on, man.
I'm a big piece of meat, brother. I'm, like I said, I'm 6'4", 265. So I'm not.
You're right at the limit. Okay, you're on the limit. We can still make it happen. You're just right there.
Yeah. No.
I've taken a few race car drivers. I've taken Connor Daly skydiving.
Oh, I love Connor.
Yeah, dude. So I took Connor skydiving. That was years ago. I took him like 5 years ago now, and he loved it. And then a couple other race car drivers that bugged me about it. Jeb Burton, Ward Burton's kid, he bugs me about it. So we're trying to plan something. One that I'm honored, a guy that became a friend of mine through go-kart racing, of course. And I looked up to me, he's one of the most prolific Formula One drivers in my era is Rubens Barrichello. So he was, for those who don't know, Rubens Barrichello was Michael Schumacher's teammate, as I know you know, but telling people at home who don't know. And so a Ferrari driver for many years. So we raced go-karts together, like battled it, and then we became bros. And so we're good friends. And I'm honored. It gives me goosebumps because he wants to skydive and he will not go. He's like, I won't skydive unless it's with you. And so we're trying to plan it when he comes to Vegas, go-kart event. So to me, it's like, man, I never thought I'd meet this guy, let alone race against him, let alone become friends with the guy. So I'm hoping to make that a cool story one of these days. I know it has nothing to do with EVs, but talk a little bit about race car drivers.
This is all, it's all clickbait. We want people to like come in here. Oh wow, we're talking about that. Okay, didn't know we we're going to talk about that, and that's what's cool about.
He's doing some EV driving though. We talk about Formula One drivers doing a lot of EV racing, and that's the biggest thing about Formula E is the crossover of the XF1 drivers doing the Formula E stuff. You know,
former. It's like military. Former, not X.
Former, not X. Sorry, former. True. Sorry. Absolutely. I do the same thing.
There's definitely ex-wives, ex-husband, but like you're not like that's my former wife. No,
I like that. I need to remember that for myself because sometimes I'm like, I was an ex Red Bull athlete. I say that I was a former Red Bull athlete.
I got corrected like the Hyundai like Sunday thing. My buddy is a former Marine, and I said X, and he's like, hey, by the way, former Marine, not ex-Marine. So I was like, and put some respect on it.
That's exactly how they say it. One of my best friends is a Marine, and I skydive with him, and he'd be like, they're very almost a little intimidating. He'd be like, hey, it's former.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. And then he shanked you. And
exactly.
He said, hoorah! No, I'm joking. Again, my grandpa fought in World War II. That's his plane on my arm. But yeah,
badass,
dude.
Have you been in the Mach-E? Have you been in the Mach-E? I'm sure you have, right?
I just a street one. I did ride in the Mach-E 14. Did I? I went out for the launch. Von Gittin Jr. or was it Ken Block called me? I can't remember because Ken was, RIP, love Ken, love the Block family. I got a call, used to live in Gilbert, Arizona, got a call. They were out at Ford's test facility and they're like, hey, we got this project we're working on. I need you to come host this video. So I was there when beautiful, and the video's out there. It's on Hoonigan. I hosted a video where, Vaughn built the Hoonicorn, RTR, right? RTR, yep. Like they built the Mach-E 1400. They built the Hoonicorn. So they built that car originally, and Vaughn never. I know, one of my favorite top five cars, Hoonicorn and the RTR X. I still love the '69 Mustang with the cantilever suspension, all that. Vaughn or Ken, maybe both, called me and they're like, hey, so Vaughn never drove the Hoonicorn, and Vaughn just developed the Mach-E 1400. So Ken got to drive the 1400. Vaughn finally got to drive the Hoonicorn, and that was just a beautiful story. This is during COVID. Everybody's getting swabbed nose thing. It was crazy. Just check my temp, cough. But I think I rode in it. But like everybody's like, holy shit! Like that 1400 bonkers.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to bring it just because of cost, right? It's expensive. Yeah. It's just a rad, cool thing. So I don't know if they're going to bring it out to any more events. Not to Electrified Expo anyway. But the new Mach-E we have, the 2024, 700 foot-pounds of torque, and there's times where I'm like, man, and so as much as like people might be upset that we're losing some of the the V8 power and the nostalgia of driving, it's still pretty freaking rad that we're allowed to have 700 horsepower vehicles, and then it's like, and I tell people, I'm like, okay, we're still making badass Mustangs, because I get to drive both the new 2024 Mustang with the freaking drift brake that Vaughn helped develop. I got to be doing drift rides in that thing, and I'm like, I want both. I want the drift brake for when I really want to go get sporty, and then I want to cruise to work back and forth in my Mach-E, man. So I like, so again, I don't work for Ford per se. I'm not but let's a shout out to Ford because they seem to be doing it right, like you just said. Right. They seem to be doing they're still purist driving. You have all the options. They're going with the flow. They're letting everybody kind of decide what they want. I mean, you got the brand new 2024 Mustang, big old V8 engine, drift brake, line lock to do burnouts, and then you got a Mach-E that you can drive as well. So I mean,
still rips.
Like still, 700 foot-pounds of torque. So to me, I'm like, that's it right there, folks. Like you still have everything, and not only that, they're making the new Mustang one of the best Mustangs that I've driven in a long time. Because I wasn't a big fan of the more recent year body styles, and this new one, I love. And this new one, I want one. I'm a big fan of it, and it's the most it's the most fuel efficient they've ever had, some of the best power they've ever had, and it's rad, you know. And I'm like,
Yep.
so it's, you know, we're not going full electric yet. It's not all gone, you know. And they have an EcoBoost. They have an EcoBoost. They have the full V8. So I'm with you, and we're obviously on the same page of trying to educate people that it's okay to accept the change. You have to. It's the only guarantee in life other than death, right? Is that things are going to change. You got to go with the flow, but I do think there's some really good car manufacturers out there kind of creating that balance. Hyundai evolved, you know, who would have guessed? Again, Hyundai and Ford are doing it. And so, and I'm very lucky to get paid to go drive the vehicles, and then meeting guys like you to let me kind of share what I believe. I'm not just some dumb driver who sits in a car. I'm an expert. I'm an automotive expert that is still learning every day, but I do like to try to share my knowledge with people and spread and teach and educate of what's going on out there in the automotive world, you know.
Dude, the rascal's alive and well, dude. I'm so stoked. I'm going to send Randy Johnson a photo. Shout out to Randy Johnson. His family. I'll see him in August. Going full circle here. That's what I do. And it's been a pleasure to not only for me to get to know you, but for the world to get to know you and your perspective on electrification. But it comes with a lot of equity. It comes with a lot of knowledge. As you said, education, information, and you brought up a few great tidbits, like the thing about safety and going to gas stations in the middle of the night. Like I love that. You know, I have our oldest son is about to go to college, and you know, right now he's driving a Corolla, but would an EV be a good solution for him? You know, and you know, now there's used one. We could go on and on. I'll wrap it up.
Well, let's thank Randy really fast. The guy that got us on here, that Randy with an I.
Oh, well, of course. Randy. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
He's one. So I met him at SEMA show 2 years ago, and I was just randomly met him and some Canadians from like the magazine and was just ripping them around in my Ford Focus. That's just my little daily driver. And I was like jumping through the parking garage and stuff. And so, yeah, that's how Randy and I became friends. So thanks to Randy who introduced us to let me come on here. So
absolutely. Well, I mean, Electrify Expo, it's going down. We'll see you out there. Multiple more stops. Go say hi to my son, Parker. He's announcing the ERL, Electrify Racing League. So he's announcing the skateboard racing.
I was right next to them last time. Are you going to be at Denver or any of the other locations? Or
actually not? It's crazy. My schedule conflicts, so I will not. But my son will be in New York. Not an SF, but my son will be there. So if you see a way younger version of me, kind of less hairy, obviously, and less tattoos. He does. I will admit that he does have 3 tattoos. His first tattoo was the number 43 when awesome. Ken passed. So yeah. So circling back around him and celebrating all those that we've lost over the years, but also celebrating electrification. So Rascal like Jaskol, Matt, thank you so much, dude. Amazing, really great.
Pleasure,
so thank you.
Thanks so much for letting me share my story and being on here, man. Thank you.
Yep, send it. It's what the hat says. It's what the mug says. It's how we live. Send it.
I have a Send It shirt, man. I should have wore that. Nice.
That's me. That's Deanderthal. That's me in a caricature version.
Dude, that is epic. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. All right, man. Thank you so much. All right.
See
peace.
You, buddy. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Electrify podcast, brought to you by the creators of Electrify Expo. Be sure to catch full video episodes on YouTube at Electrify TV and follow along on social media for daily clips and more.